Hey guys, welcome to Solo ReacTalk. Today I'm going to be reacting to the embarrassing fall of the Night Elves made on the Platinum WoW YouTube channel. This is a request from James Anderson. This was meant for Monday, but I'm doing it now on Tuesday, so I'm sorry about that, guys. I've had a lot of things to do during the weekend and on Monday. And if you want to check out the original video as well as Platinum WoW's YouTube channel, the links are in the description below. If you want to check out my previous reactions to other World of Warcraft content made by Platinum WoW, remember that the Warcraft Monday playlist card is going to be at the top here. Just click on it and be able to access them. And yes, let us start. 3, 2, 1, go.
During the recent events in Warcraft lore, the Night Elves just can't stop losing. But what if I told you they've been on this downtrend for thousands of years and have fallen tremendously from the powerful empire they once were?
You know, yes, the Night Elves have fallen from grace, and their empire was completely destroyed after the Great Sundering. And yes, it was a terrible situation. However, there is a silver lining to it. Because from that destruction came a new opportunity, a new prosperity for elven kind in totality, not just the Night Elves. From the Night Elves stemmed other, groupings of elves. We've had the High Elves who turned into the Blood Elves later on. We have the Naga. Of course, that is under the influence of the old gods creating the Naga. And we have the Worgen elves, the Druids who turned themselves into Worgen. Yes, we have those elves as well in existence. And there's many other different types of elves. Even the elves in Suramar, they are different from the Night Elves of Kalimdor. So, there's different groupings of elves that exist in Azeroth. No longer are they concentrated in one unity that is the Night Elves. They have now dispersed themselves. They've now become different people, and you could say that that is a silver lining to this catastrophe, because their people were almost brought to extinction after the Great Sundering. And now, should anything happen to the Night Elves, at least they'll still be having descendants from the Night Elves, and that's the other groupings of elves across Azeroth. So they won't go quietly into the night. They will continue to exist, even if it's under a new name, under a new people, a new type of people. They'll still exist. So yeah, you could say it's like a silver lining to it.
Our story begins 15,000 years ago on Azeroth, where a tribe of dark trolls discovered the Well of Eternity. The well was formed from an ancient titanic event on Azeroth and left a limitless font of arcane power that surged with energy. This energy transformed the life around it, including the dark trolls. They evolved to have similar characteristics to the Titans and would adopt a new name, Kaldorai, meaning children of the stars. They learned to worship the moon goddess of life, Elune. Now, the details of who Elune actually is still shrouded in mystery, which is pretty rare now in the Warcraft universe.
Yes, that is actually very true. We don't know what Elune actually looks like. Is it really the moon, the physical body, celestial body in space? Is that Elune, or what? Is she just talking through the existence of the moon? Is the moon just like an extension of her powers? What is she exactly? Where is she? Yeah, that's a very important question.
We do know a lot about Elune's sister goddess, but really, that's it. And speaking of Elune, her son, Cenarius, taught the Night Elves the affinity for druidic magic.
Alright, Cenarius. I remember Cenarius in a World of Warcraft movie I was watching. It was based on the War of the Ancients. I'll put the card at the top here. You can just check out my reaction to that video. But I didn't know that Cenarius was the son of Elune. So who is the father of Cenarius if Elune is the mother?
The demigod would be instrumental in the upbringing of the Kaldorei, and through his teachings, Druidism and the protection of nature would be a core part of their society. The other side of Kaldorei society developed an affinity for the arcane. They used the powers of the will to build wondrous temples and expand their ever-growing empire. At the helm of this expansion was their exemplary ruler, Queen Azshara.
It's Britney, bitch.
Queen Azshara was born with glowing golden eyes, a sign of her future greatness, which was more than true. She was beautiful, strategic, strong-willed, and ruthless. Now in Night Elf society, there was a clear separation between the arcane magic noble users called Highborn and your typical Kaldorei. But that didn't stop everyone in the Empire unanimously praising their new queen. They loved her so much, they renamed the capital city to Zinashari.
You know, I remember seeing Zinashari in a World of Warcraft, I think it was Battle for Azeroth trailer, and it was being swallowed up by a giant tsunami. And yes, it was Queen Azshara who tried to protect the city with a force field or like a shield, you know. And yeah, that place was amazing. That place, although we only saw it for a few seconds in the cinematic, it was beautiful. You know, it just reminded me of the story of Atlantis. You know, how Atlantis was this very, very powerful, advanced culture, civilization, technologically, you know, far superior to any other empire on Earth. And one day, you know, their entire empire was sunken beneath the oceans. All of their people, everything that they've ever built, everything that they ever, you know, created with their two hands just went crashing into the oceans, into the ocean. And yeah, you could say that it's quite similar with the Kaldorei Empire and with Atlantis, how they were also the most advanced civilization on Azeroth, and after the Great Sundering destroyed the continent and shattered it into many pieces, the empire also went down into the oceans. Yeah, so it's quite beautiful, truly.
Meaning glory to Azshara. And the only real enemy that threatened the Kaldorei Empire was the trolls, and they were easily crushed because when you have a font of unlimited power and soldiers that live for 10,000 years, it makes fighting pretty easy.
Zandala forever.
Azshara kind of just let the trolls live in the mountains of Zuldazar and told them to never expand into Kaldorei lands, and practically the entire continent was now under Kaldorei rule. But Azshara wanted more. The Queen of the Kaldorei made a pact with who she would later discover was Sargeras, the leader of the Burning Legion. Azshara wanted nothing more than to wipe out all of the lesser races on Azeroth, making every inch of the planet under Kaldorei rule. And the Will of Eternity was used as a portal to summon a horde of demons, kicking off the War of the Ancients. And okay, I've talked about this war probably like 13 times on this channel because it's probably the most important event to ever happen on Azeroth, and is also the point where the power of the Night Elves starts to fall off of a cliff. Okay.
Yeah, it's very important to talk about it, Azeroth. Dan, you're doing nothing wrong here. You're doing nothing wrong. It's very good that you keep highlighting it because it is the root that stems to, you know, the multiple storylines for many races across Azeroth. You know, it affected everyone, not just the Night Elves, not just the trolls, not just you know, the Valkul when they existed. It affected everyone across Azeroth, and after the Great Sundering, the effects from that Great War still continued on after that. So it's very important to always come down to where it all began, so that we understand how, you know, the things have progressed to how they are right now, you know, in the present, or should I say also in the future. So yeah, the Great War, the War of the Ancients is a very important you know, timestamp in Azeroth.
Okay, so the war ends with all of the demons being banished from Azeroth, but also the Well of Eternity explodes, boom, and the entire planet is fractured, and like 90% of the Kaldari Empire is destroyed. After the destruction of the planet, at the brink of death, Azshara and her loyal subjects got turned into fish people.
The Naga.
By the old god N'Zoth. So they technically aren't Night Elves anymore, but they live in Night Elf ruins underwater. More on them later. When the dust settled, the remaining Kaldari attempted to pick up the pieces of their now fractured empire. Illidan Stormrage, being the dumbass that he is, had vials of water from the Well of Eternity and used it to make a new well.
That's not an act of a dumbass right there. That's not an act of a dumbass.
What the hell? What are you trying to do? Blow up the world again? He was in prison for 10,000 years after that. And the dragon aspects helped build a new world tree over the well, which accomplished a multitude of things. The world tree of Nordrassil would regulate the power of the new well and mask its power from evildoers trying to seek it out. It would also use the energies of the well to heal the world, and most importantly, it would make the Kaldari immortal, so they would not die of old age or disease. This was a new age for the Kaldari, and the leader that rose to power was High Priestess Tyrande Whisperwind and Malfurion Stormrage. Well, it was Malfurion when he wasn't sleeping, hanging out in the spirit realm of the Emerald Dream with...
Guys, we still don't know the answer to this question. What do druids do in the Emerald Dream? What do they do in there? What is it? Why is it so secretive that we don't know what are they doing in there? You know? Or maybe time operates differently in the Emerald Dream. Probably when you're in the Emerald Dream, you know, it feels like years have gone by. Or should I say, no, maybe not like years, maybe like seconds have gone by in the Emerald Dream. But in the real world, days, maybe years have gone by. Thousands of years have gone by. But you've only been staying in the Emerald Dream for 10 minutes. So maybe it's something like that. But honestly, I still don't know what is it that they actually do in this plane of existence.
Other druids doing druid stuff. I don't know, it's kind of vague. Point is, it was mainly Tyrande who had to deal with the aftermath of the Sundering. After this event, Night Elf society pivoted to be heavily focused on a druidic lifestyle, and the use of arcane magic was forbidden, punishable by death. This was controversial to say the least, and the remaining Highborn, who had an affinity for the arcane, thought the banning of magic was for cowards.
Sunstrider.
Dathramar Sunstrider, their leader, explained that the Highborn had been using arcane magic for thousands of years before Azshara even ever became the ruler, and it was impossible to deny the great power of the arcane. They were going to continue using it no matter what. It was their birthright, and they weren't going to let any low-born, tree-hugging hippies tell them that they can't use it. The Highborn were then exiled/willingly left Kaldari society to start their own empire in the Eastern Kingdoms, and would later become the High Elves, and then the Blood Elves we know today. The next big event in Kaldari history was the War of the Satyr. Satyrs were once Night Elves, twisted by demonic corruption, and they combined their efforts in a unified force to attack the
Are the Satyrs still in existence on Azeroth right now? I'm wondering about that. But that's also very important to see, like, there's a different grouping of elves that are apart from the Night Elves. Just like the Highborn elves that became the Blood Elves. You know, there's different groupings now of different elven kind across Azeroth. So yeah, it's quite interesting.
Night Elves. In order to combat these demons, some druids tapped into an ancient druid form, forbidden to use because of how dangerous it was.
Wait, what was that in the hands? That looked like... No. It's not what I think it is. No.
These druids were called the Druid of the Pack, and in their wolf form, they were unstoppable killing machines, but in their frenzy, they could not discern friend from foe. Instead of killing these crazed druids, they banished them to the Emerald Dream, and 10,000 years later, they would re-emerge and become the Worgen we know today. And let me just say, it's hilarious the Night Elves are like, arcane magic? Yeah, no, that stuff is dangerous, and it's corruptive, not good. Let's ban it all and then use druid magic instead.
I think they did that because arcane magic, it's power, it is very powerful stuff. It's the stuff that led, or should I say contributed to the destruction of Azeroth, and what, split the continent into various pieces. So that power is extremely destructive, very, dangerous to control. And when it comes to the druidic magic, it's mainly attuned to nature and connected to nature. And, I don't think you can create any sort of weapon of mass destruction by using druidic magic. I just don't think you can, right? Because it's in balance with nature. Unlike arcane magic, where you can create weapons of mass destruction. I mean, you can think about the mana bomb. That's also fueled by arcane magic. And, with druidic magic, I think it just doesn't have that oomph like arcane magic. Yeah, hopefully you guys can understand me when I say that. But essentially, druidic magic is tied with nature. Whatever you take from nature, you have to give back to nature as well. And even the people who practice druidic magic, they're able to transform into animals. They're able to, be one with the Emerald Dream. They're able to do all these things that don't necessarily lead to the death of someone or the destruction of entire civilizations, unlike arcane magic. With arcane magic, the sky's the limit, essentially. The sky's the limit. So yeah, maybe that's why they focused mainly with druidic magic, not only because of their past and what happened during the times of the Caldari Empire, but also now, in the present, when dealing with people with arcane magic. It's just different comparing to people, comparing to dealing with people with druidic magic. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just thinking outside my ass right here, guys. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, you can correct me in the comment section below. Okay, let's continue. No, I'm wrong. No, let's just continue.
And then right after, they tap into corruptive druid magic and they start murdering each other. Yep, Night Elves are very logical. The next war is the War of the Shifting Sands. The old god Cthulhu and his insectoid creatures, called the Karaji, stirred awaken Silithus, and the Night Elf forces traveled down to snuff them out. And then they got the ever-loving crap beaten out of them, and they were forced to retreat. And in fact, they needed help from the dragons to bail them out, and imprison the old god threat once again. Perhaps the war would have gone better if they didn't, hemorrhage themselves and they actually used arcane magic, maybe?
But didn't all the highborn elves leave Kalimdor for the Eastern Kingdoms? So maybe there aren't any night elves, who can, use arcane magic in Kalimdor. Maybe, I don't know.
I don't know, just an idea. Between the War of the Shifting Sands and the events of Warcraft 3, there really is no substantial history about the Night Elves. They have just been living in seclusion in the northern reaches of Kalimdor. And I've ragged on them a lot in this video, but the depiction of Night Elves around the time of Warcraft 3 is by far some of my favorite world building done in the Warcraft universe. They're incredibly cool. To outsiders, the Caldari have become this elusive, powerful force deep in the enchanted woods of northern Kalimdor.
Night Song.
7-foot tall Amazonian sentinels.
7 foot? Whoa. These guys were giants.
Stalk trespassers in their lands. From within the dark brush of the forest, their glowing eyes hunt their prey, shimmering with bright white light reminiscent of the goddess they worship. Their tactics are flawless, having honed their skills for tens of thousands of years. When Gromhillscream tried and failed to claim Ashenvale, he is quoted saying, "These women fight with unmatched savagery. I've never seen their equal. They are perfect warriors."
Indeed they are.
And that is Gromhillscream, the war guy. Hulking druids the size of refrigerators can feel your very presence trespassing into the forests they have formed a deep spiritual bond with. They transform into savage beasts that can rip through a group of soldiers in a single swipe. The Kaldorei are not nice. They're intolerant, savage, spiteful warriors of nature that hold dominion over the forests of Kalimdor. And it's badass. During the Third War, the Night Elves fought against demons, Scourge, Horde, and Alliance. Pretty much everyone that wasn't a Night Elf, and they suffered, kind of heavy losses, partly because of their stubborn nature. Their demigod Cenarius was slain by Fel Orcs, and the
What? Cenarius is dead? Wow. How did they kill a demigod? And why did Elune allow her child to be killed? Wow. Okay.
Kaldorei would not team up to defeat the demonic threat until the very last battle for Mount Hyjal, where Malfurion sounded a horn to rip Archimonde apart with 1,000 wisps and blow up the World Tree of Nordrassil to defeat him, ending the Kaldorei's immortality in the process. Between the time of Warcraft 3 and World of Warcraft, the Kaldorei grew a new world tree of Teldrassil and built their new capital of Darnassus. And the Night Elves turned from these stoic, elusive, savage protectors of nature, and now they're... Okay. Night Elves in WoW aren't necessarily bad.
They're so cute. Yeah, I mean, it's to be expected that they would change themselves. Now they're part of the rest of Azeroth. And, they can't have this isolationist, militarist mentality anymore. They have to expose themselves to everybody else, in Azeroth. And mainly their alliance, because they're part of the alliance. And, like Platinum WoW has just stated, that they're a very stubborn people. It took them time to understand that they can't do this alone anymore. They can't just seal off Kalimdor, the forests of Kalimdor, and just imagine that, things beyond their borders don't exist. They can't do that anymore. They exist on Azeroth that is filled with a lot of empires, a lot of people of different types of upbringing and backgrounds, and they can't just seal themselves away from the rest of Azeroth. They have to be a part of the community. They have to be a part of the political going-ons in the galaxy, not in the galaxy, on the planet. So, yeah, they had to switch themselves into a far more diplomatic, far more softer approach, or maybe passive approach compared to how they were before. Yeah, they had to adapt, essentially. However, they will revert back into their, violent and intimidating type of people again after Sylvanas burns down the tree and destroys Darnassus completely. That's when they will just switch 360 and return back to the Night Elves of old. Yeah.
But they have definitely lost the edge that made them a step above the rest. Instead of being these aggressive tree huggers, now they've kind of just turned into tree huggers. This is partially because gameplay triumphs over lore constantly in Warcraft's story, and the Night Elves join the Alliance.
Yeah.
Yeah, the faction that is on the other side of the planet, and now they take orders from a king who has lived a small fraction of their lives and has an even smaller fraction of combat experience.
Luckily they have magic that they're able to teleport from the Eastern Kingdoms all the way to Kalimdor because, communication is very important for an alliance organization. You need communication with all the different parties that are part of this alliance. And it wouldn't have worked without any form of instantaneous travel from one point to the next. So yeah, the alliance is lucky that it can exist in a world where magic is alive and well and it's being practiced by everyone. Yeah.
Throughout Classic WoW, the Night Elves are dealing with the corruption of Teldrassil, yeah, it's corrupted, and the Horde's logging expedition to Ashenvale. And for the next 2 expansions, Night Elves exist, but their story and their place in the world really doesn't change. During the Cataclysm, the world has been broken by a cataclysm, and the Night Elves suffer considerable damage because of this. During these troubling times, we actually get a shakeup in Kaldorai's society. Morden Evershade, leader of the few remaining Highborn left on Azeroth, apologized for all the blowing up the world stuff, and the very few remaining Highborn were reintegrated into society. But the amount of Highborn that actually exist is very, very small, and really is just an excuse for Night Elf mages to now be a playable race and class combo. Also during the Cataclysm, the Worgen broke free from the Emerald Dream and ransacked the town of Gilneas. Since the Night Elves are mainly responsible for Worgens even existing in the first place, they help out where they could, and they invite them into the Alliance. Meanwhile, tensions between the Horde and the Alliance were ramping up. Horde offensives pushed into Darkshore and Ashenvale, but were repelled by the Elves. Although it wasn't a decisive victory. In the zone of Stonetown Mountains, a giant goblin-engineered bomb was dropped on Thaldrala Grove, killing soldiers and innocents alike. Finally,
Whoa, so the Horde has another type of weapon of mass destruction that's not, associated with the mana bomb? Wow. Man, that's crazy.
over on Mount Hyjal, the World Tree of Nordrassil has grown back, but the Night Elves still aren't immortal. And they play a huge role in defeating Ragnaros, who has set up a base nearby. Okay, well, all things considered, it's going pretty well for the Kaldorei right now, but this is just the calm before the storm. Miss Pandaria, nothing happens. Warlords of Draenor, nothing happens. Legion, a lot happens. First off, Tyrande and Malfurion travel to a zone called Val Shara. This is an ancient location where Malfurion was first born and trained to be the first ever druid to exist on Azeroth, under the tutelage of Cenarius. More recently, the satyr named Xavius has been corrupting the lands. During the questline, Malfurion is captured, and Tyrande and the player character need to rescue him. Malfurion is an incredibly lore-rich character, whose personality has been expanded upon over 21 years in books, comics, and in-game cutscenes. But for the average fan of World of Warcraft, they know him as the guy with the most hilariously pathetic voice lines where he's all like,
Tyrande, I need you. You cannot keep me from her. Where are you, Tyrande? No!
And here's the funny thing, it's actually Xavius impersonating Malfurion in these voice lines. But everyone kind of forgot
Maybe Xavius also likes Tyrande, Maybe he likes her too.
about that detail, or it was just poorly translated. Also during the questline, Ysera dies, a very close ally to the Night Elves, and oh yeah, also during Legion, the Nightborn, a Highborn adjacent faction of elves, wanted to ally with the Alliance, but Tyrande was apprehensive because they reminded her too much of the Highborn, with their limitless power and addiction to magic. So they joined the Horde instead. And then, in the Battle for Azeroth expansion, in BFA, the burning of Teldrassil is easily the most controversial event in Warcraft history. It was a radical change made to the game's story and world, something that is really rare in the MMO medium, and Night Elves suffered immensely. Easily their biggest loss since the Sundering of the World, but with great loss meant that we are able to get the brutal side of the Night Elves again, something that had been missing for the entirety of WoW since then. And visually, it was awesome.
It was terrifying. Terrifying. Nobody's safe. Nobody.
Tyrande! I need you.
Tyrande partakes in an ancient ritual to become a Night Warrior, empowering herself with the vengeance of Elune. This is so cool, but ultimately feels hollow when she struggles to fight Nathanos, a guy with a bow. I feel like
Nathanos was a Silver Moon Ranger. Let us not underestimate that. Let us not underestimate that, Platinum WoW. He was a ranger.
it would make more sense if she used her powers to turn him into literal ash because, you know, empowered by one of the strongest goddesses in the universe and all that. And again, the retaliation of the Night Elves feels hollow because the Alliance wins the battle to reclaim Darkshore, but it happens off-screen, the zone is a wasteland, and they push them all the way to the crossroads in the Barrens, which is explained in mission table quest text, which can't possibly be more underwhelming. And hey look, oh my god, Ajara is back. Her model is dope, her voice actress is amazing, the zone she's in is beautiful, and and she's gone. Well,
I'm sure we'll see her again one day.
Waited 15 years for that one. The Shadowlands expansion comes out, and if the Night Elves didn't have it hard enough, all of those elves that were murdered in the burning of Teldrassil are being funneled directly into hell to be tortured for all eternity, which is so dark and depressing it's almost comical. Tyrande manages to fight Nathanos alone and kills him this time, and then charges into the depths of hell, killing everything in her path to save the souls of her people.
Not just to save the souls, but mainly to get revenge on one particular person. Sylvanas.
Later in the expansion, she finds Sylvanas, the one responsible for the suffering of the Night Elves, and they have a 1v1 fight, which, again, visually, so dope, but
it was delicious. This fight was beautiful.
It ends with Tyrande's powers waning and Sylvanas just getting away, which again makes the badassness feel pretty hollow. Hell,
blame it on Elune. It was her. She took away that power. You know, Tyrande had Sylvanas by the by the neck. She was going to, you know, and then Elune's like, no, don't do this.
Even if she left a small little wound on Sylvanas, it would make this scene 1,000 times better. And ultimately, the storyline ends with Tyrande realizing she must focus on the renewal of her people instead of vengeance, which is... But there's a silver lining to this. In order for Tyrande to not be the Night Warrior anymore, she basically has to go through this exorcism. And we get the coolest voice acting that we've gotten in WoW for years. Now, even after she chooses renewal and is...
Look at her! Look at Tyrande, she is mad.
Normal Tyrande again, she still is very mad at Sylvanas. But, you know, I'd much prefer in the world of Warcraft having Tyrande kick Sylvanas down to the pits of hell and then focusing on renewal of her people, but that's just me.
No, I agree with you, Platinum WoW. I agree with you. You know, she should have had her revenge for her people against Sylvanas. She should have killed her. I really do think that maybe she should have died in Ardenveld when they had their fight. But isn't World of Warcraft you know, the game, isn't it PG-13? Maybe that's why they won't show. No, but they showed Nathanos' death. You know, Tyrande killed Nathanos. I don't know, I can't remember how she killed him. Maybe she stabbed him or she cut his throat. I can't remember. But yeah. You know what? Yes, Tyrande should have killed Sylvanas, but in a very violent way. Yeah. Although I like Sylvanas, I like the character, but this could not go unanswered. What she did, she must pay for it.
And look, there's a lot of things about Shadowlands I can continue to talk about and how disappointing it was for the continuation of Warcraft's story, but really, I don't want this video to devolve into every single other lore video about Shadowlands that ultimately becomes Shadowlands is bad. Okay, but not everything is horrible for the Night Elves. Tyrande was given a new world seed imbued with the souls of dead Kaldorei, which most likely means we're getting a new world tree at some point, but it's currently in the Emerald Dream for safekeeping. And you know, seeing the amazing scale of Dragonflight zones, it should be pretty awesome compared to Teldrassil, which in-game was literally just a stump, surrounded by fog. And you know how I just said the seed is safe? Well, that's a goddamn lie, and the suffering of the Night Elves isn't done yet! Later on in Dragonflight, bad guys called the Primalists and
This might be a spoiler for me because I'm still reacting to the Dragonflight gameplay, especially done by Azeroth Dan. So, but it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
invade the Emerald Dream and seal it off from being accessed from Azeroth. But it can be accessed from the Shadowlands, and the only one that can do that is Ysera, the former Green Dragonflight aspect that died in Legion. In order for her...
Wait, can't the other green Dragonflight dragons also enter into the Emerald Dream? Why is it only Ysera? Huh.
To leave the realm of death of the Shadowlands called Ardenweald, she needs someone to take her place, which Malfurion agrees to do. Sound convoluted? Yeah, I know. So
you know, despite it being convoluted and, you know, confusing, it's just that Tyrande and Malfurion have been apart from each other for multiple times, you know, multiple lifetimes as well, you know, and they recently got married. You know, they were supposed to be having a happily ever after, but there's no such thing with the Night Elves. There's no such thing in Azeroth. But I mean, this is the only few times where they actually have a time to themselves to be happy. And now Malfurion has to go and sleep again to allow Ysera to come into the real world and enter into the Emerald Dream while Malfurion sleeps in Ardenweald. This poor couple.
basically, Malfurion is in timeout in the realm of death while Ysera does stuff, but eventually they'll swap places again. And in response, Tyrande says what every Night Elf fan has been thinking for the majority of Warcraft's story.
I am so tired, Malfurion.
Yes, guys, that is it with the embarrassing fall of the Night Elves made on the Platinum WoW YouTube channel. Yeah, you know, the Night Elves with the trolls, especially like, you know, the Zandalari trolls or all these other troll clans, you know, they've all gone through a lot ever since the times when Azeroth was one supercontinent. You know, yes, the Night Elves and the Trolls have been fighting against each other. The Trolls have been losing their territory. They've been losing their lands to the Elves. And yes, the Elves were at their supremacy. They enjoyed their power, their empire. Just like when the Trolls were in power, you know, long ago. When the Trolls were in power, they also enjoyed their empire. They enjoyed their supremacy on the land. And their time was done. Their time was done. You know, their empire was heading towards its sunset, and the Night Elves were rising. You know, their sun was rising up into the sky, and they were becoming powerful. And after the Great Sundering, you know, they've never known peace, really. They've always been battling either its internal conflicts or its external conflicts, just like the Trolls. They've also never known peace. Their lands have been taken over by kingdoms, like human kingdoms that have been taking over their lands. They've also been fighting against the High Elves before they became the Blood Elves. They've also been going through a lot of pain and suffering and occupation by far more powerful forces. On the side of the Night Elves, they have been secluding themselves in the Kalimdor forests, believing that, outside of their forests, they don't have to worry about it. They don't have to, concern themselves with what's happening on Azeroth until it really hit home. When the Karaji were also, causing problems with the old gods, and then, they needed help from the dragon aspects on the situation. And then after that, they also had the problems with Akumand, and the Burning Legion also interfering into the lives of the Night Elves. So, the Night Elves also didn't have it easy. Just like the Trolls, they've been suffering, they've been occupied, they've been attacked by different groups. And, at least, like I've said before, at least the Night Elves have been able to multiply into different groupings of people. You will have your Worgen, you will have your Satyrs, although those ones have been created from the corruption of the old gods. But, they are still elves. They're still elves. And then, of course, you have your highborn elves who become the Blood Elves. And then you have the Nightborn from Soroma as well in existence. So, yes, the Night Elves are a diminished people, but they have multiplied into different peoples across Azeroth. I would say they are one of the most adaptable, species on Azeroth. They're not going to go quietly into the night, like I've said before. Just like the Trolls, they will continue to endure and continue to survive and to thrive however they can. And the only thing that I'm worried about is the relationship between Tyrande and Malfurion. These two, they have been together for so long, but in majority of that time, Malfurion has been asleep. He's been in his emerald dream state, and it's always been Tyrande having to look after the people, having to become the leader. And when it should be a joint partnership, usually it's only her, just working on it. And I'm just worried about her. I'm worried about their relationship. Hopefully it won't hurt them too much. Maybe hopefully one day they will get back together and they will have a very long and fruitful life, even after all that has happened to the Night Elves. But yeah, we can only hope. But like I said before, yes, their downfall was embarrassing, kind of. It was much more of a somber situation, I would say. But there is a silver lining to the end of all of this for the Night Elves. I believe that. Okay, guys, I guess that is it. Thank you to Platinum WoW for creating this very informative and enjoyable video. I really did like the Queen Azara coming in there. It's Britney, bitch. That was so funny. That was really, really so funny. And yeah, thanks James Anderson for also requesting that I should react to this video. It's been really, really good. And guys, remember, if you want to check out the original video as well as Platinum WoW's YouTube channel, the links are in the description below. If you like my reaction, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos. And I will see you guys hopefully next week, Monday. Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. Hopefully I won't have any issues. I won't have things to do. Hopefully. Okay. Bye, guys.